Hello folks and welcome to episode 18 of Passive Aggressive Film Reviews. I'm Nathaniel Barrett.
And I'm Richard Shittlebob.
Okay Richard, what have you been up to this past month? Okay. An interesting start. What brings about the ground, Richard?
It's been a rum old month for movies, Nathaniel. That's for a starter.
A rum old month?
Very little of interest.
Yeah, I had noticed. I must
I bet you loved it.
Well, it saves me the bind and going and you know, doing my job, yeah.
Absolutely. This is normally the time of year that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
You know, between the Hollywood blockbusters.
Yeah.
Because normally you get some decent... Look, you remember at the end of last year, we got Another Earth.
Yes.
You get some real corkers, but it's been awful.
Well, I can't say I hadn't noticed, Richard. I mean, I was flicking through the film websites and becoming utterly inspired by it, all I have to say.
Did anything grab you?
Not particularly. Obviously, you get access to all the kind of the higher end stuff, sort of the war horses and the artists and stuff. But yeah, exactly the same reaction as I had, Richard. It was hardly inspiring.
If another person tells me how great the artist is, I'm going to punch them in the face.
I'm not going to advocate violence, Richard, but I think it's an understandable reaction all the time.
I will never, ever see that film.
I think people are going to see it just because it's a silent movie and one of these hasn't been done for an age. Isn't this interesting? No, it isn't.
Have you heard the soundtrack?
There's a soundtrack on a silent movie?
Well, there's always been soundtracks on silent movies, Nathaniel. Do some research. Right. Silent means there's no talking.
Right.
So the actors, they're on screen, they're speaking. You get caption frames come up that tell you what they're saying.
Yeah.
And there's a soundtrack to carry it all along. Because did you think that 100 years ago people were going and sitting in a silent room?
Yes, I did.
You're a buffoon.
Well, over the case. I think a silent movie is not silent.
It is not silent. What it means is it's the separation between silent movie and talkie movie. They're called talkies.
They should be given that description more accurately. But
what would you call them?
A talking movie.
A current movie.
Yes.
Every time a new movie's released, they've got to say, "Oh, and by the way, this is a talking movie."
Well, yes, why not? To make that distinction, yeah.
Okay, so since the 40s, there've probably been 2 million films released.
Yeah.
Only one of which came out just a few months ago was a silent film. So 2 million times they've got to say this is a talking film.
I don't get wrapped up in statistics, Ian. Richard.
Who's Ian?
I don't know who this is. I don't know where that came from. It must have been a former lover.
Schizophrenic.
Yeah. So I don't get wrapped up in that. I like detail, I like accuracy. Should we move on for that subject?
Okay, I won't be going to see that.
Right.
Let's just finish with that.
I agree.
I'm a bit tetchy.
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with agoraphobia.
Agoraphobia? Oh, right, okay.
I cannot leave my house.
Really? What's brought this on, Richard?
I was actually hypnotised.
Oh, yeah.
I was regressed.
Yeah.
To find out why this had suddenly developed.
Okay.
And it seems that it started when you fed me a cannabis-laced cake. It was your fault.
Did that give you the impetus to go outside?
That sparked a psychological condition that has now rendered me housebound.
Well, I can kind of understand that, I guess, because on the innumerable times that I've been under the influence of cannabis, I must admit, going outside doesn't enter my thoughts very often.
I'm not on cannabis now, but I still can't leave the house.
What, are you so paranoid by it?
Apparently, it is a mix of paranoia and a total lack of confidence. That's what I've been told.
Okay. You don't strike me as being paranoid or lacking in confidence, however.
But that's because I'm at home at the moment.
Right.
Do you understand?
No, but you're a social creature. You do your journalism, and you're out and about most of the time, meeting celebrities, mixing with the people of your own ilk, and so on.
Well, I like to do that, yes.
So what's changed?
It's just nervousness.
Right.
The last time I ventured out, people that I saw in the street, they seemed to be carrying knives.
Okay.
It was in my mind, but I could see the knives in their hands.
Really?
Yeah. So I hot-footed it back home, and I haven't left since.
You haven't been touching anything stronger than cannabis, have you?
Not as far as I'm aware, because I've been nowhere near you.
Well, I've been sending any more dodgy cakes, so no, you can't point the finger on me on that score.
No, unless the water supply to my house has been tampered with.
Well,
LSD.
I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't. Apparently, lots of people dislike me.
Well, again, I wouldn't. That's not exactly, shock of the century, is it?
I don't know why.
Well, I do.
I've started smoking again. That's a bit of bad news, I suppose.
Well, for about the 40th time.
Listen, if I can't leave the house, what the bloody hell else am I supposed to do but smoke?
Well, there's plenty of ways to keep yourself entertained, Richard. You don't have to just, destroy your lungs.
Mr. Sanger from the local shop, he delivers them personally. I'll give him a couple of extra quid each time he brings me a carton.
Well, fair play to him for providing a worthwhile service.
That's a bit sarcastic, that last comment.
Yes, it was.
Well, I've started writing a book.
That's better. I like the sound of that.
It's called Why I Hate Nathaniel. It's going to be quite long.
You're not finished it yet?
I haven't finished yet.
Well, be sure
it's an ongoing project.
When you have, as soon as you have, just send me a copy of it. I'll be keen to read that.
Last thing that springs immediately to mind.
Yeah.
I'm leaving Facebook, Nathaniel, after 3 long years.
Well, you've done what to last so long. Any reason?
It's a lack of support from those that claim to like me, to support me, to wish me well. I asked them just to send me some words of comfort in these difficult times with my agoraphobia.
Yeah.
And only 2 people bothered to respond. Can you believe that?
Well, I'd like to say no, Richard, but sadly I can.
Frankly, the rest of them can go fuck themselves. I'm sorry to swear.
You're not
that's just the passion I'm feeling.
No, I understand it, Richard. That resonates. No, that's fully justified. You've no need to apologise for bad language on that occasion. You're feeling passionate about people letting you down, not backing you up. And I think that's absolutely fine.
All I needed was it would have been one click on the mouse and then for them to type 10 words or so. That's all it would have taken. And I could have been, put at ease and been content. But no.
Well, fair play to you for doing something about it. It'd be easy to stay in the status quo and just let it be. You're doing something, you're taking action. Fair play to you. Fuck 'em, Richard, fuck 'em.
Thanks, Nathaniel. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
And I'm going to tell listeners as well, and this doesn't happen often, that one of those 2 people, the 2 people that did the right thing, one of them was Nathaniel.
Well,
so thank you very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And
I mean that.
Yeah. Well, I despise you to the core on many issues, Richard, but never let it be said that I won't back you up on things that matter.
You always will. And I love you for it.
Thank you very much. Literally.
No, I really do.
Okay, well.
I'm welling up here.
Can I ask for proof?
Well, do you want me to save my tears in a little vial?
No, I was hoping
for a pervert.
I was hoping for some sort of physical contact with you.
Oh, you don't be. You are disgusting, aren't you? Here I am, spilling my heart, and you have to turn it to something tawdry.
No, I don't think that's tawdry at all. It's just.
I'm not touching you.
I wasn't talking about your penis up my anus, Richard. I was talking maybe a hug or a handshake, maybe. Yeah, it's changed. You've changed
I feel overreacted.
You've changed your tune there, haven't you?
I'll tell you what, Nathaniel, next time we meet in person, I'll shake you by the hand.
Okay, lovely.
How's that?
That's great.
Good. What's going on in your world?
Well, do you remember last month when I brought up the subject of a nush kid placing their requirements on me for a baby?
Absolutely. It was like emotional blackmail from what I recall.
Well, that's pretty much how it felt, to be honest with you. Yeah, good call. But I've been racking my brain trying to think of ways to get around that problem, obviously.
Have you been racking anything else?
Sorry?
Have you been racking anything else?
Don't lead me down that line, Richard.
Go on.
I won't go down that avenue.
Okay.
But the point being, I found a way around it.
Ah. Adoption.
No, not adoption. No, not adoption. That is a viable option, of course, but no, something more potent, something more interesting than that, I think you'll find. I hope the scientist in you will be impressed by this.
Is this... Can I try and guess?
Of course you can, there you go for it.
A surrogate mother?
No, not surrogacy, no.
A surrogate father?
No.
Like a sperm donor?
No, not a sperm donor, no.
Oh.
No.
No, I'm out then, go on.
It's all to do with the power of the mind, Richard.
Okay.
Through exercising your willpower and your belief.
Uh-huh.
Now don't mock, don't laugh, because I've got physical proof. But believe it or not, I have taught my body to ejaculate water instead of semen.
To ejaculate what?
Water.
To ejaculate water?
Water, yeah. I've taken the sample of the fluid to a scientist of mine. I indulge a little bit of self-pleasure for the sake of experimentation. And he put his tests on it and confirmed that it was 95% concentration had disappeared from that liquid.
Well, I'm speechless, Nathaniel. How have you managed this?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't got the scientific theory and the explanation to give you in any kind of detail. But all I can tell you is that by willing this into effect, by constantly thinking about it, by demanding it of my own body, it's had the required outcome.
Could it be that you've always ejaculated water, and now that you've had it tested, you think it's because you wished it didn't? Could it be that that's always been the case?
I suppose that is a possibility, but yeah, I can't deny that, Richard. I can't deny that. Perhaps I've been firing blanks all along.
Because you've always struck me as a bit of a jaffer.
I've got the look of a jaffer about me.
You've got the look and the walk.
I'm not sure what a jaffer is meant to look or walk like, but I take your point. I hadn't thought about that, actually. I mean, that seems ridiculously obvious now you've actually stated it.
Because you're a bit limp-wristed, aren't you? You're a bit kind of airy-fairy.
Limp-wristed, airy-fairy. I don't think that actually translates into spermatozoa content, but I do take your points. Maybe I've been blessed with that affliction all along.
You look to me
like
a man with no semen in his bollocks.
Thank you very much. I think that's quite a compliment.
That's no problem.
What would a man look like who was absolutely saturated with semen then, Richard? Just for the sake of it.
Lawrence Delalio.
Lawrence Delalio?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean big and rugged and burly?
Absolutely. Big burly sort. Rugby players.
Yeah. Okay.
They're riddled with semen.
Seeps out of the pores. Well, thanks for the observation.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty big news to me, but you've kind of deflated it a little bit. But, the result's still the same.
Well, I certainly didn't intend to deflate it, because if true, and if you can prove it, Nathaniel, you're a scientific miracle, aren't you?
Well, that's going to take some doing now, because if I've been firing blanks for all along, then how do I prove otherwise?
Because even somebody who is sterile is still producing seminal fluid. Yeah. What you're saying is you're spurting out pure water? No,
I didn't say that. You're obviously not listening to what I've said. There's been a reduction of a 95% concentration.
Oh, I see.
In the amount of tadpoles in my excretions.
I understand. So you'd need the before and after shot, wouldn't you?
I think so, yes.
To prove the reduction. Yeah, that is strange.
It's not like I'm ejaculating a substance that comes from underneath Buxton rocks.
No.
It still has, it's not pure water. It still has some tadpoles within it.
Is it thick and creamy?
It still has the same substance, yes. It's got the same look of regular semen, yes.
Effluvia.
Yeah. which is obviously will help to give Anushka the right impression, of course.
Oh, well, yeah, because if it was coming out like a spurt of Evian.
Absolutely, yeah. She might be questioning that.
Well, at the very least, you think you're masturbating yourself senseless.
Yes, yeah.
Every second of the day.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that's not true.
So yeah, that's come with something to relieve, Richard. Really, either way.
I'm dubious about this. The thought that you've willed it into existence. I must admit, I don't really believe that's possible.
That logical brain of yours does serve on occasion. I'm questioning it myself now, Richard. I have to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But hey, whatever. For some guys, it's a big thing. For me, I couldn't give a shit. It's a blessing.
Yeah, because you've never really wanted to father a child, have you?
Oh, good lord, no. Oh, crumbs, no. No, I can't think of anything worse.
You literally can't think of anything worse?
No, of course I'm exaggerating, you bloody idiot. It's just for the sake of the point. Of course I think of something worse.
Okay.
For the sake of the point, I'm trying to get across that I don't want to bring a child into the world, so, you know. We all exaggerate on occasion, Richard. Forgive me.
What do you think will happen if Anushka finds out that you're firing blanks?
Well, yeah, good point again.
That's a problem, isn't it?
It is a problem, yeah. Because
if she's hell-bent on spawning a child,
yeah,
she finds out you can't provide the ammunition.
Yeah.
Well, you can see which way that's going, can't you?
Well, I don't want to second guess that eventuality, if and when it comes about. I mean, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it, I think.
Fair enough. You're a brave man.
I'm going to string it out for as long as I possibly can, anyway.
Mm.
You know, other news, I've become vegetarian, Richard.
I thought you already were.
No. People.
I just assumed.
You know, people get their impression looking at me with my long hair, my garlands around my neck, and you know. But no. It's been on the agenda for some time, obviously, but I've never actually got round to it. Is
this in readiness for your trip to India?
You're absolutely on the money, yes. With the imminent visitors of South India on the card, yes.
How about that?
It's very appropriate, you're quite right.
Yeah.
But,
because the last thing you want to get is kind of deli belly from the meat.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, you know, Anushka's family are vegetarian anyway.
Right.
Being South Indian, I think most South Indians are vegetarian by definition.
You think that, or you know it, or you're just making that up?
I don't.
You're making it up, aren't you?
No, I'm not making it up. I have heard from people I've spoken to who are from South India who've said that most of the population in the south of the country is vegetarian. But I don't know definite statistics.
Fair enough. That's honest.
But yet, for my own, it's for moral reasons, obviously. I can't really justify consumption of animal flesh when there's, you know, an abundance of other healthier foodstuffs available. So the inevitable has happened, really, Richard.
But you say that. But if you hadn't got together with Anushka and you hadn't happened to have been going to southern India, you'd still be wolfing down the beef burgers, wouldn't you?
Well,
you're rationalising it. But it's just bullshit.
No, not at all. This would have happened eventually. It's just we're just on a different timescale. That's all. You're quite right. You'd have probably been, I don't know if put a label on it. 1, 2, 4, 10 years down the line, even maybe.
I see.
But it was always something that was going to happen.
It's just pushed it up the agenda.
Pushed it up the agenda. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I get it.
So I mean, I took this decision last weekend. And so, obviously now, I find the thought of anyone eating or working or cooking meat absolutely offensive.
Yes, because suddenly you've decided that you don't eat meat, so therefore anybody that does is doing something offensive.
Absolutely.
Even though you were stuffing steaks down your throat less than a month ago.
That's change for you, Richard.
That's hypocrisy for you. That's what it is.
You call it what you
want. Dare you in judgment.
What you will. It's an evil act.
An evil act. You are going out of your way today to come across to the listeners as utterly preposterous.
Am I? I'm not.
Seems that way.
I'm not going out of my way. I'm not trying to, honestly.
One of the most ridiculous things you've said so far on this show.
Well,
it's evil to eat meat. Get a grip.
Richard, my principles have changed. You can't deny me that right. And I shall support it with all of my soul.
I mean, looking at you.
Yeah.
mincing around like a Jaffa.
Yeah.
Pale complexion, like you've got anemia. Yeah.
Does mince do that?
Best thing you can do is stop eating meat. Just go on to vegetables and pulses. That's gonna really do wonders for your appearance.
Well, not all of us are so obsessed with emasculating ourselves, Richard. Some of us embrace the femininity within. Next.
Okay, folks, it's movie news time. The good news. Censored movie The Woman in Black, boycotted here at Smell the Cut HQ, has been knocked off the top spot at the box office. The bad news? The best exotic Marigold Hotel has replaced it. John Cusack recently announced that he would be interested in a potential sequel to 1997 actioner Con Air. Given that the original was a deafening, incoherent din of shouting and explosions, just think how it will be now that the actors are also hard of hearing.
The Men in Black 3 marketing campaign is hotting up, with viral attacks spreading like, fungus, as well as secret adverts in seat and subway stations. A lot of fun, right? Showing the movie will be a steaming pile of Orwellian dung now. Sly Stallone's next action has been pulled from the release schedules, apparently so he can recut the movie himself. He's satisfied with the director and editor's work. Tell you the truth, Sly, just shave off about an hour and 35 and we may be interested.
Okay, folks, this is the part of the show where normally we'll be discussing a movie on current release, but due to reasons that will become clear, we haven't actually been to see anything this week. So instead, we're casting our eyes in the direction of the Gogglebox, the Idiot Lantern, the Rectangle of Stupidity. Yes, the television. And as there's only one show that both of us are currently watching, that's what we're going to talk about. And that show is MasterChef. Don't turn off straight away, listeners. Please don't. With an initial run from 1990 to 2001, then revamped in 2005 and still going strong to this day, MasterChef is to cookery what Mastermind is to pub quizzes. Contestants lock horns on a weekly basis, faced with challenges set by usual presenters Greg Wallace and John Turode. At the end of most shows, one contestant is eliminated until eventually the MasterChef for the year is duly anointed. So I can't go out to see films due to my agoraphobia. What's your excuse, Nathaniel?
There's just nothing good on worth watching, Richard.
Yes.
I'm sorry to kind of puncture that balloon somewhat, but it's just the truth.
You just couldn't be bothered to go and see anything?
I just couldn't be bothered to go and see anything.
You know, normally I'd be quite angry with you.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think it's fair enough.
You see the point, don't you? Yeah,
I do.
We alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast.
We did.
So the listeners will understand.
Yeah. If there's nothing on, we can't go and watch a film, can we?
And we're not going to spend good money on going and seeing pieces of shit that we don't believe in.
I'm not going to spend any money on Adam Sandler in Jack and Jill.
Not even if the listeners want us to.
Not a chance. They can kiss my arse.
Absolutely. So that's why we've reverted to TV for this occasion. Won't be a regular occurrence, but just this 1 week.
Maybe a one-off. Maybe an every so often thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't put any definition on it, but that's how it is this week.
And if you don't like it, dear listener,
you can piss off.
Just fuck off.
Yeah, fucking useless piece of shit.
Thoughts, Nathaniel? Come on, MasterChef.
Well, I do enjoy this show, Richard, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be watching it. But I don't know how you feel about it, but the two you've alluded to, the main presenters, John Turode and Greg Wallace, they're getting up my arse a little bit, and not in a good way.
Are they?
They are. They're beginning to grate. They're beginning to annoy.
Go on.
I think that they're becoming full of their self-importance somewhat. Yes, we understand they have a job to do, that they're judges, they have to criticise the food, they have to pick apart the techniques and the taste do or don't go together. We understand that. But they're getting positively insulting at times, Richard, and it's getting a bit much. It's getting a bit much to take.
Give me some examples.
Well, do you remember that pretty Asian girl that was on the series earlier? Aki, I believe her name was.
Oh, yes.
She had her flaws, don't get me wrong. And no doubt she'd an hour in her company would have driven any sane man insane. But taking all that into account, she was there doing her best. She was cooking fantastic Japanese food. A bit out there, a bit kind of off limits. But she created something to do with, I can't remember the exact which dish it was now, Richard, but she created something that contained oysters that were smoked.
Right.
And again, I can't quote it verbatim, but John Terrell makes a comment, something along the lines of, I feel like I've just eaten a cigarette butt.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
That was absolutely beyond the pale. It does that man think he is.
It was very harsh, wasn't it?
Very, very harsh. Not just harsh, I can take harsh.
Yeah.
The contestants can take harsh as long as it's done with the correct tone of voice and constructively. But to be absolutely insulting, belittling like that was beyond the pale, and that shouldn't be allowed, basically.
Shouldn't be allowed?
Shouldn't be allowed, absolutely. Should not be allowed. Because what message is that given to people watching it?
Well, I think as the series progresses, what they have to do, they have to kind of intensify the comments and the level of criticism in order to keep the interest level. Because if they just kept saying the same thing over and over, it could get bored.
I understand that point of view, Richard, but I don't subscribe to it, because why do you have to keep pushing the boundaries back to keep people's interest? I'm sure the interest should be in the food, shouldn't it?
It's just modern society, Nathaniel.
Well, modern society is shit on that stuff.
Yes. Well, as you know, I wish it was still 1975, so I totally agree with you. At times, I don't know what you think about this. It's so theatrical, I fear that they may very well burst into song.
I quite enjoy that aspect of it, though.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it's like they're it's not like they're cooking. It's like they're going to war.
You're absolutely right. The kind of the energetic soundtracks and the kind of the beats that go on every time they speak. It's kind of theatrical. It's all nonsense, really, but enjoyable nonsense, nonetheless.
You mentioned the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that one of the pieces of music they play is the same music that was used in This Is England '86? I
haven't noticed that, no. Well,
it's quite perturbing to watch somebody frying a piece of salmon, to go with some camphor.
Yeah.
When the same piece of music is being played, the last time you heard it was when you were watching somebody being raped.
Well, are you absolutely accurate in that, in pointing that out, Richard? Is that an accurate description of what has actually happened? Or are you just making things up? Are you exaggerating like you were criticising me for earlier?
No, the piece of music is exactly the same piece of music.
The rape scene in This Is England is being used on MasterChef.
Yep.
My word. I can't believe I haven't picked up on that. I'm glad I have.
How about that?
I'm so glad I didn't spot the association, because I get your point totally, and I wouldn't want to recognise that. Well, how about that? You surprised me.
There you go. Which do you prefer, Nathaniel, the professional series or the amateur series?
I haven't seen the professional series.
You have?
What do you mean?
Because we talked about it at the time.
The professional series, enlighten me.
MasterChef, The Professionals. When it's people that actually cook for a living. They're not kind of TV celebrity chefs.
Right.
They're people that work in, cafes and, low-level restaurants.
Right. Well, I can
pretend... It's the same show, but it's professionals instead of amateur. Because the amateur series is people who don't cook for a living.
Yes, I understand that, yeah.
The professionals is people that do cook for a living.
That's
what the word professional means.
Professional, yeah. Well, for the sake of the podcast, I could pretend that I've seen it.
You have seen it because we talked about it.
Just because I talked about it doesn't mean I've seen it with you.
Well, that's true. That's
Makes
absolutely
stuff all the time, don't you know that?
You'll blow hot air about any subject, won't you? So you don't know,
I don't know, no.
Question's redundant.
Yeah, it is very much, yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
How long will Greg Wallace live?
Well, if we're talking like lifespans,
I don't know how else to interpret that.
I'm buying myself time to think about the question, Richard.
Okay, go on.
I don't think he's got as long to live as Mr. Thoreau. He seems a bit. He doesn't strike me as a man who does a lot of activity.
You're being very kind.
I'm trying to be. He's a bit chubby-faced. He seems fond of his sweets too much. And you can't see him running out of track, can you?
I don't know, absolutely not. I don't think he's got a treadmill at home.
I don't think he has.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
I quite like the guy.
I like him, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
But he's not long for this earth.
So if you should use your celebrity connections to try and strike up a meet with him, we should go and have a beer with him.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I think he'd drink me under the table, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, no doubt about that. I mean, that wouldn't be difficult, obviously. But yeah, to give him the opportunity to take him to task with some of his, unkind comments.
Well, there's Thoreau more than Wallace, isn't it?
Not so much. No, he can be a moody swine at times, Mr. Wallace.
I suppose so.
You know, that they've both got it within them to be acerbic.
That's true enough. I'm going to turn it on you now, Nathaniel.
Go on.
What do you know about cooking? You stuff your face full of bloody mung beans and lentils, hummus and nut cutlets. You bleed of an idiot. What do you know about cooking?
Well, that's only a recent development, Richard, obviously. It's one of those questions I find difficult to answer because compared to some people I know a lot about cooking, compared to a lot of people I know nothing about cooking. Do you want to put me on the spot with something?
Not particularly, no. I just wanted your opinion. You say you know a lot about cooking, so give me some examples.
What kind of question is that? You need to ask me something more specific, Richard, before I can even get a handle on the point you're trying to make.
How would you go about... In fact, do you think you'd even be capable of cooking a beef bourguignon that was even vaguely edible?
Good Lord, no. Beef? I've never touched beef in a million years, you fucking animal.
Before your vegetarian days?
Before, I'm not interested in what I did before. This is the new me, Richard. The thought of working with beef appalls me.
It's going to be very difficult dealing with
I think it is.
Now on. I can tell.
It's one of the points I was going to make, actually. Is that as highly skilled as many of the contestants are that we see on MasterChef, which they clearly are, that they use fantastic ingredients for the most part and display wonderful techniques. 99% of them all cook with meat, and it's just a disgrace.
But that's what people want to eat.
What's your point?
Their intention is to forge a career in cookery. Most people want to eat meat, so therefore they have to learn how to cook and prepare meat.
So you've taken the automatic assumption that people can't change or won't try anything different? I would say... Richard, we're not all based in the 70s.
90% of people have no intention ever in their life of becoming a vegetarian. Doesn't matter what you want them to do, it won't happen.
It would be nice to... I'll take your point, Richard, that it's one of the few times we do agree where we think the Great and Washed is a very accurate label. And of course, one of the reasons that we give them that label, it's not because of their hygiene, it's because of their refusal to change and encounter different things.
For me, it's to do the hygiene.
No, it's not. It's not. You don't like their viewpoints on a lot of the time, Richard. I know. You're not telling the truth there.
It's a mix of the two.
Okay, hygiene and truth. Okay.
Hygiene and flawed philosophy.
Okay. Here's a scenario for you, Rich. What do you think about this?
Go on.
You're a man who likes...
And don't ever call me Rich again.
I'm just trying to be friendly.
Go on, carry on.
Does that offend you?
Off you go.
Okay.
Onwards.
If it was only just once a year for a charity bash or something worthwhile, Tyrone and Wallace should be made to cook a perfect plate of food under those lights, under the judging eyes, the loud music in the background, and let the general public judge it.
I agree, and I would actually go a step further.
Go on.
You see, I don't think that they would fear the judgment in terms of, if it was Michelle Roux Jr. watching them, judging them, I don't think there'd be any fear factor there.
Yeah.
If it was the critic, no, I don't. If it was the critics, the Observer critics, the Guardian critics, the critic episode that they always do.
Yeah.
If it was those guys, I don't think there'd be any fear factor. I think what needs to happen is that there need to be guns pointed at them.
Well, perhaps a little extreme.
You'd watch it though, wouldn't you?
I'd watch it. Oh, you're damn right I'd watch it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I'd definitely watch it.
If your food isn't up to snuff, bang! The brain splattered against the back of the studio.
Yeah, I don't think that would work on mainstream, 9 o'clock BBC television, Richard. I don't think that would go down too well.
You'd watch it though, wouldn't you?
I'd still watch it, yeah.
Here we go, you see. I never said it had to be on at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah.
Put it on a cable channel.
I don't think it'd last long, even if it was on like 2:30 in the morning. I don't think
That's true. That is true.
But the point
you'd run out of contestants pretty quick, wouldn't you?
You would. It wouldn't last long. The point I was trying to make, which before you came up with that ridiculous concept,
go on,
was not despite the unkind comments that they occasionally make. It's the constant move quicker, get it on the plate, move now. The judges are waiting. All this business, I'd like to see them subjected to some of that pressure.
John Turut is a professional chef.
Okay.
So he knows the environment.
Yeah.
So he would thrive, I believe, under those conditions. Greg Wallace, on the other hand, I think you're right. He might fold. I
think he started to compete. Whatever he was actually frying in his pan or got under the grill, I think he just panicked and just started to eat it.
Just stuff it into his mouth. Yeah, that's perfectly possible.
I can't take it anymore. I'm just going to eat it.
I'm just going to, that's totally possible.
Yeah.
Tyrone, though, I'm very confident he could handle it, and he'd deliver a perfect plate of food.
That may well be the case, but we'd actually nice to see evidence of that.
He has cooked in the past, in the earlier series.
Yeah.
And, but never under pressure.
Never under pressure, that's the point.
He's prepared a dish.
Yeah.
That then the contestants have to reproduce.
Yeah.
But he's certainly never been against the clock.
Right.
With people judging him.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, isn't it?
It is, that's right, absolutely. That's what makes it, the intense environment that it is, because, they're under time restrictions, and, it'd just be nice to see the tables turn for once.
What's your favourite challenge, Nathaniel, that they have to face? Mine is the palate test. But I haven't done this series, unfortunately.
I haven't yet, have they? You're absolutely right.
I like that one.
Identified various foodstuffs.
You got it.
Just by tasting it. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That would be one of the high points.
I like the identification test as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're given kind of, exotic ingredients and they have to say what they are.
Yeah.
Those two are certainly my favourites.
That one not so much, because that's just a bit anal for me. It doesn't say anything about them as cooks.
I guess not.
Just because you've got the ability to spot a sea bream from a rainbow trout.
I guess so. That's simply learning something by rote, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, very confident.
But taking it back into what we've actually already witnessed this series, for me, it's just the general one. It's the one where they get free reign. They get 1,000 ingredients, well, not 1,000, that's ridiculous, 100 ingredients put in front of them, cook as something fantastic.
That's the invention test.
The invention test, yeah, absolutely.
The invention test.
So it's not kind of like ready, steady cook scenario where they get 5 ingredients forced in front of them. They get free reign to pick what they want and just,
off you go.
Face their challenge, yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. Because then you see them at their creative best, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. They're not working within any kind of guidelines or parameters. It's, they just go for it.
Here's a thought for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was it better back in the days of Lloyd Grossman?
Good question.
Because it's a totally different program, isn't it?
It is, actually.
It's got the same name, the same label, but by Jiminy, they're very different.
They are. Again, it was very much... They were very different, but they had something in common as regards to the theatre of it all. I'd have to say I enjoyed the newer series more, although I did enjoy Lloyd Grossman's series too. For the simple fact that it's a bit more down to earth. With Grossman being there, I'm sure he's a very amenable chap, and you could go and have a glass of wine or a beer with him in the pub. But he did give MasterChef an unwanted identity, really, in so much as the way he spoke.
It was a bit elitist, wasn't it?
Very elitist, yeah.
It really was.
And we need to take that away from food. Obviously millions of people are watching this programme, and we don't want to give it any more the stigma that it's already got.
But now, isn't it just like the X Factor? Whereas back then it was truly about the love of food.
I suppose just a little bit more commercial, yeah, but just to say it's a little bit more commercial is not really necessarily a negative thing. It just appeals to the masses more.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it, because I really enjoy watching it, otherwise I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I tend to agree with you. I think it is better now.
Yeah.
It's more mainstream. It's got more energy to it, more vibrancy. And the sense of competition has been heightened.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the main thing, I suppose.
Indeed.
How do you react to the sight of grown men crying?
Of course.
Because that never happened with the old format.
Well, yeah, I'm absolutely no problem with grown men crying whatsoever, of course, just people displaying emotion. It's all the shock of the century, Richard.
And last question, really.
Yes.
Do you derive sexual pleasure from watching total strangers slave over a hot stove?
Well, I never thought of it until now. I'm looking out for that impetus in the next episode.
Yeah. I kind of assume that's why you were watching it.
No, not at all. No, you really, your subconscious a little... Very well here, Richard.
It's not my subconscious. I'm worried about it. It's your potent, stiff as a poker consciousness that I was thinking of.
Nothing
to do with me.
You deviant.
Nothing to do with me, you pervert.
You're thinking, with Jay and his big musty tattooed arms getting stuck into his beef dishes. I know what you were thinking.
I wouldn't let him near me.
Yeah.
I bloody wouldn't. Far too burly for me. Who's going to win this series, do we think? It's Andrew for me.
Well, I desperately want to disagree with you, Richard, but I have to agree with you. I think it's going to be
really?
for me as well, yeah. And I hope he does, because despite his unusual features and his slightly weepish persona, I think it really, really means a lot to him. And,
he's a bit wet, isn't he?
He's a bit wet, but...
He's a bit wet.
He's there to cook food, and he's not there to be the most inspirational personality. He's there to cook bloody good food, and he clearly does that. And it means an awful lot to the guy, so I hope he does win.
He's one of the weepers.
He is one of the weepers, but I don't
know.
that's not a criticism, Richard. Just because he cries.
I guess not. Are we going to rate this? Are we going to give it a rating?
Okay, yeah, that's right.
It's not quite the usual format, but I think we should stick to some parameters.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's thoroughly entertaining, mainstream programming that really delivers.
Yeah, I'm going to have to match you again, Richard. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. There's a dearth of good programmes on at the moment, and I'm always interested in food programmes at the best of times, and this is one of the best exponents of it, so I'll match you 8 out of 10.
So, just before we move on,
yes,
can you please make sure you go and see a film next time?
Well, it depends. I can't make promises, Richard. If there's a pile of shit on at the cinema for week in, week out, I'm not going to make extra effort just to please our listeners, no.
I didn't go for medical reasons. You didn't go for no good reason at all.
I didn't go out of principle.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Right, folks, time for Richard and I to deliberate over this month's choice of movie from the archives. And this month is going to be a sci-fi movie from 1985 called Quiet Earth. The plot. Zach Hobson wakes up to find himself literally alone in the world and goes about trying to find other survivors as well as to find out what has actually happened. He suspects that a government research project he was involved in had something to do with the disappearance of everyone. Eventually he finds two other people, and once they begin to trust each other, they try to figure out why they were left on Earth. Have you seen it, Richard?
Of course I have.
And what were your thoughts?
I didn't understand this at all.
Didn't understand it?
No.
Well, you're an intelligent chap at the best of times, so how did you get to that?
It was just a bloke.
Yes.
Wandering around for a bit.
Yes.
And then he met a woman. And they wandered around for a bit more. It was bloody useless.
Richard, no, you can do better than this. I know you can. Why is that scenario so alien? They were alone on Earth. How would you react in that situation?
Yes.
That's what the movie was about.
There have been lots of other genre pieces that cover this concept.
Yes.
Have you seen Day of the Triffids?
Of course not.
I Am Legend?
No.
Well, frankly, you should before you can form an opinion on this.
Well, that's a ridiculous position to take.
No, it's not.
Can't even form an opinion on a movie I've seen because I haven't seen some former movies.
Absolutely right.
You bloody idiot.
If you dare to watch Pulp Fiction before you've seen Reservoir Dogs, I'm gonna have to take a hot poker to you.
Well, you're really a logical brain. It serves for most of the time, but sometimes it lets you down, Richard.
What was this about?
It was about someone who... I can't believe you're actually asking that question.
It was about nothing.
It wasn't about nothing at all. It was about a man who was potentially, obviously as the film progresses, it reveals himself not to be the case, but for the first half an hour, 45 minutes or so often, he's potentially the only person that survives on the planet.
And?
There's implications to that, Richard. How would you react in such a scenario?
Probably like the people in Day of the Triffids or I Am Legend.
Well, I haven't seen that, so you have to explain it.
With a sense of intelligence and purpose and logical, progressive thinking. What they didn't do was stand in front of a mirror wearing a woman's dress.
Well, that was only one fleeting part of the movie, Richard. It wasn't the whole synopsis of what was going on. He did plenty of other things.
It was the main thing, though, wasn't it? That was the whole point of this director.
The one that stuck
just to have a scene of cross-dressing.
You're revealing your deviant nature again, I think.
I'm not. No, I'm revealing the things that revolt me. Men should not wear women's clothes. Men should not paint their toenails. Men should not wear makeup or in any way cross the gender divide. It's absolutely revolting.
I think, given the same situation that Zach Hobson found himself in, you'd be soon into the lingerie department. You'd be wandering around in a little basque, with your bloated gut hanging out, looking at yourself in the mirror, admiring yourself. Ooh, look at me. Covering yourself in lipstick, tucking your cock in between your legs.
Talk about somebody.
That's what you'd be doing. That's the first thing you'd do. Anyway, yeah. What we're saying. So,
talk about somebody revealing their subconscious.
Well, I openly admit it, Richard. I would. Absolutely. I'll be into Ann Summers. I'm breaking. Wandering around the shopping mall.
Jabbing the vibrating devices up your anus.
Oh, absolutely, you've got it, absolutely, yeah. Within the first 10 minutes. Anyway,
fucking disgusting human being.
Well, it wouldn't matter, Richard. But nobody there to judge me. Do whatever disgusting, depraved acts I want you to, because that's the whole point, isn't it? You can do it however you please.
You can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
I don't like films
where
the main character is a scientist.
Right. For what reason?
Because they're atheists.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It kind of goes against the grain somewhat, does it?
It's not pleasant.
Yeah. Well, you know, you just have to be mindful of the fact that some people are atheists and some people believe in Jesus and some people have any other weird and wonderful beliefs, which is just the world population for you. It's just the way it is. You just got to accept it.
I understand that.
Yes.
But it just means I don't warm to the main character.
Right.
So, you know, I just find that problematic.
Have you ever heard a film where the lead actor is not Christian?
They don't have to be openly Christian.
Right.
But if they're a scientist, you can take it as read that they're atheistic.
Well, yeah. I suppose so. Yeah.
I can't think of a single exception to that rule.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are Christian scientists, but I've never heard of one.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that even in 1985, the politically correct brigade were alive and well. Did you notice that as well?
Go on.
Look at Appy.
Yeah. What about him?
Well, you're telling me there's 3 people left on the planet.
Yeah.
And one of them had to be a Maori. So just so no one gets upset.
Oh,
pathetic.
That's awful, Richard. Why wouldn't it be a Maori? It's just a completely insignificant point you're making. It could be
pathetic.
It's not pathetic at all. One of the people that survived happens to be a Maori, and so what?
Absolutely pathetic. That's just to tick a box to get some extra funding, just to make sure nobody complained.
That's just
the director should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah. That's just you kind of inflicting your idealism on us all, isn't it? You just want the 3 people to be white British.
Well, I didn't want them to be British.
Right. Well, you did want
because
them to be
that's not where it was set. What country does this originate from, Nathaniel? Do you know?
It was Australia, wasn't it?
You see, I knew you'd say that. It's New Zealand.
Oh, but those are them all the same.
It's not. Well, a second ago. Even I know that New Zealand and Australia are different.
Well, I got the right area.
Have you seen any other New Zealand films?
I don't. Why do you always do this? It gets monotonous. I'm just satisfied enough with the humiliation that you've already inflicted upon me in the weeks that have gone past. Name them. I can't name any, Richard. Apart from Lord of the Rings, but is that Lord? I don't know.
That'll do.
Yeah? Okay.
That'll do. You're getting very upset.
I am getting upset. No. You keep driving me down this avenue that I don't want to go, Richard. Just to
grow up.
Boot yourself up.
Grow up.
It's tiresome.
Grow up.
Do you want to hear my thoughts on the film, Richard?
Go on.
Okay.
Go on. Off you go.
I found it a little bit slow. It is a slow burner. And it's not going to appeal to the elusive most, is it? Because they're going to find it a bit ponderous, I think. It's a bit slow for most people, is the point I'm trying to make. But my favourite...
the pacing... Oh, sorry, go on, Nathaniel.
Go on, yeah, you can interject, go on.
I thought the pacing was appropriate to the subject matter.
Yeah, it's got the whole bleak, pedestrian vibe about it, I suppose. You're right in your observations, but that's not going to appeal to many people, is it?
I suppose you're right. The bleakness and the solemnness of it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's about the last guy on Earth, at least for the first half of the film.
Absolutely.
It's hardly going to be a riot of action, is it?
Very true, yeah. I suppose, given a bigger budget and a more commercial feel, he would be bumping into people more quickly than what he did.
Well, that's I Am Legend, you see, that's the thing. You need to watch that film, just to see a comparison. I think so, to see how Hollywood treats the same subject matter.
Right, okay. Yeah, it's fantastic, fair point.
And it's not awful.
Okay.
It's a perfectly watchable film, I Am Legend.
Yeah. Alright, maybe I might check it out.
Tails off.
Yeah.
As most of these things do.
Yeah.
You know, gets a bit kind of special effects heavy towards the end.
Yeah.
But, you know, for a good hour and 20 minutes, it's perfectly entertaining.
Yeah. Fair enough. I might check it out. I'll put it on the list.
Other thoughts, Nathaniel? Go on.
Yeah, when Zach initially realised that he thought he was the only person on the planet, the half an hour, 40 minutes that ensued, I think was probably the most interesting, seeing the activity they got up to. Moving into other people's mansions, giving speeches to a makeshift audience. Obviously wearing the women's clothing as well. It's good to see that represented.
It's science fiction, isn't it?
Science fiction?
It's a science fiction movie, but it seems like it's more about maybe potential romance, maybe existential angst, rather than aliens and laser battles.
Yeah, there's a lot going on under the surface. Yeah, that was the beauty of the movie, in all honesty. It's like, if you choose not to analyse it, if you're watching it kind of half-cock, then you would find it incredibly dull, I would suspect. But if you take the attention that it warrants, then you see there's a lot more going on under the surface.
You seem quite surprised when I refer to it as science fiction.
But no, you kind of caught me there because, it'll all become clear later on in the podcast.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I understand.
You touched something that we were already going to be discussing.
Yeah.
So I got thinking into that mode for a second.
Fair enough.
Can you put yourself in this position, Richard? For a moment. I mean,
I'm agoraphobic.
It's terrifying, of course, once the kind of the reality of it set in. But surely, for the first, I don't know, couple of hours, 3, it'd be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm agoraphobic, Nathaniel, as you know. And I don't think I'd even be able to leave the house if I knew there was nobody else around.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No?
So I find his kind of wanderings and venturing into other people's properties.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I could see the excitement of it.
Yeah.
Because it's taboo, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I couldn't do it myself.
No?
No. I'd just stay at home.
You could get as frightened and as frantic and as, could have his panic attacks at will, and no one would be there to witness it, wouldn't you?
No, I don't. I'd just stay at home.
I did feel for him in some way, though, because obviously he does eventually find another human being to converse with and relate.
Woman?
Yeah, the woman, yeah. And she's ginger. I mean, the poor guy's luck.
I mean, what's the chance?
You're already you've got the elation of seeing another person, but then they're ginger.
I'm with you on this one, Nathaniel.
Good Lord.
I'm with you on this. As you know, I due to personal experience, I detest the Scottish.
Right.
And most of them are ginger, aren't they?
Most of them, yeah.
Most of them.
90.
Most of them are ginger. I mean, at least this woman had some teeth. Because most of the Scots haven't got any fucking teeth.
And she spoke quite eloquently as well. I suppose you could get her a hat, I don't suppose it'd be that much of a big deal, but I just put myself in this position of, oh my God. God, what have you done to me?
You could get her a hat, Nathaniel, but what about if the collars and cuffs match, if you understand my meaning?
Right, yes, I suppose so. But, we don't know that, do we? Because we didn't see that. You'd have to get yourself a blindfold or something to be able to manage that, wouldn't you?
I mean, I know there's something in the Bible about a fiery bush, but...
Right.
I don't want to see it in real life.
You don't want to see it in real life, no, quite, no.
Lord. I would never, ever be in a relationship with a woman with ginger hair.
No. No, heaven forbid, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, would you?
Good Lord.
The other aspect of the movie, one of the main aspects, obviously, was the love triangle, wasn't it? Isn't it? Surely you can agree with me, there's some kind of triangle dynamic going on, isn't there?
Well, there is. Did it interest you?
It did, but not for long, because they weren't accurate in the representation of it, were they at all? I could see what they were trying to do, but if you put yourselves in that situation, they'd just all be banging each other senseless, wouldn't they?
I think so.
Threesomes, hetero, homosex...
No. Yes? No, they were taking in turns.
Oh, right. Well, that's not my viewpoint. I think they'd all be at it like rabbits, just, shove every implement and object they could get their hand on into each other's orifices.
But, as the limp-wristed feminist that you are,
yes,
my scenario's better, isn't it? Because she gets double the fun.
Well, it might be better for her.
Exactly, so you should support that. You claim quite frequently that women are better than men.
I don't claim that at all.
You said that quite often.
Never said that. Oh. Yes, it's very much from the hetero viewpoint that you're holding there, Richard, isn't it? Mm. Obviously, I'm not going to subscribe to it.
Okay.
But shall we sum this thing up? We've been banging on about it quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just confirm that I agree with the romance thing did tire me a little bit.
Yeah.
When it's finished, when the movie's finished, I think you're meant to be left with many questions.
You are. That's very
about your own mortality.
Yeah.
Our place in the universe.
Yeah.
The meaning of existence.
Yeah.
I'll be honest though, the only question I was left with was, is that it?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's a bit of a damn script to end on, isn't it, really?
Sorry.
Yeah. So
I can't lie.
Well, go on, give us a mark then, Richard. Let's get a synopsis of what
you're not going to like it.
You don't like it, no?
No, you're not going to like it, my mark.
Go on.
2.
2 out of 10, yeah. That seems a ridiculously low mark.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah, well. I'm going to give it 7.
Normally I'm proud of my marks, but this one I did feel a little bit ashamed.
You could have put a different mark.
But not if that's what I truly feel. You see, sometimes we can feel things that do make us, or think things that do make us ashamed. And this was one of those moments.
Right, okay. The production held it back a little. It was clearly low budget, not an expert hands. But overall, a fine effort, and I'll give it 7 out of 10. Right, folks, it's time for the final section of the show called Any Other Business. And this week, Richard and I are going to be discussing all things science fiction. What's good about it? What's bad about it? Who does it best? Who does it worst? And what is it anyway? You're about to find out. Now, Richard, before you start boring us all with the sound of your own voice, I've got an admission to make. What I'm about to utter to the listeners, I've copied and pasted straight from Wikipedia, but it all serves a purpose, so just bear with me for a second while I read it, okay?
Go for it.
Science fiction is a genre of fiction dealing with imaginary but more or less plausible, or at least non-supernatural, content such as future settings, futuristic science and technology, space travel, aliens and paranormal abilities. Exploring the consequences of scientific innovations is one purpose of science fiction, making it a literature of ideas. Science fiction is largely based on writing rationally about alternative possible worlds or futures. It is similar to, but differs from fantasy, in that within the context of the story, its imaginary elements are largely possible within scientifically established or scientifically postulated laws of nature. Now, having said that, Richard, I can boil that down to a simple question, but I just wanted to put that in pretext.
Right.
Let's boil it down to that question. What constitutes fiction from fantasy?
You mean science fiction from fantasy?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I've got a list of 5 books, movies that I'd like your opinion on.
Okay.
So you can choose whether it's fiction or fantasy.
Science fiction.
Science fiction or science fantasy. Yeah.
Science fiction or fantasy.
Right.
You need to get your terminology right, because otherwise we will get complaints.
Okay. We'll get complaints anyway about you, but anyway.
But what you've got to remember is sci-fi fans and fantasy fans and horror fans, which also crosses over, they're very, very anal. So you've got to make sure you get it right. So I'm going to pick you up on it. Every time you get something wrong, I'm going to tell you.
Well, I'm asking you the questions, Richard. I've created this debate.
You're right, but all I'm saying is you started off by using incorrect terminology.
Did I?
You did, yeah, because you were saying, tell me the difference between fiction or science fantasy. Well, that's wrong.
Science fiction and science...
Science fiction or fantasy.
Right, okay.
It's not science fantasy. That doesn't exist.
Does it not?
No.
Okay.
Let's go. Come on.
Testing, yeah. But I just want to, just a precursor to it. There's no undermining tactics or dirty tricks here, Richard. Those, I'll leave stooping to those levels to you, okay? So there's no...
Fair enough.
There's no tricks.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Here we go.
You don't try and undermine my confidence.
I wasn't trying to. Right, ready?
I am ready.
Alien.
Alien is sci-fi horror.
Jurassic Park.
Pure science fiction.
The Time Machine.
Oh. Well, that's a good one.
You're understanding the point, Richard, aren't you?
That's a good one. That's sci-fi, oblique stroke fantasy.
Right. 2001 and 2010.
Pure science fiction.
And Chronicle.
Sci-fi, stroke, fantasy.
There you go. I think you've just contradicted yourself, Richard.
Have I?
I think so.
Why?
Well, a couple of those films you gave the science fiction fantasy.
No, oblique stroke fantasy, because they contain fantastical elements.
Right.
And also sci-fi elements.
Right.
Just as Aliens is a science fiction oblique stroke horror movie.
Yeah.
Because the science fiction comes from the exploration of space, the technology required, the possible life form that is scientifically explicable, the xenomorph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the horror element comes from the gore.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So it is possible for a movie to straddle two, sometimes even three genres.
Yeah. So I think by incorporating all of what you've just said, there is no distinction in between science fiction and science fantasy, no?
There is no such thing as science fantasy.
Right, okay. Because
only have science
it's
fiction.
already fiction.
Or fantasy.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
Because I think the point that most people would hang on is the fact that people such as Arthur C. Clarke, who has allegedly written lots of science fiction,
oh yes,
a lot of his thoughts and as concepts have come into actual reality.
Absolutely.
So it can no longer be called fiction. So hence the possible distinction between something that's obviously fantastical, which would never ever come into being,
right,
is possibly deserving of a different title as something that is at the time called fiction could eventually become true.
I mean, give me an example of this science fantasy that you're desperate to see exist.
Well, the Time Machine.
So travelling back in time and finding a race of beings, the Morlocks, I think they're called.
Right.
The underclass and the overclass. Why is that beyond the realms of possibility?
You don't need me to explain that, Richard. We're talking about a time machine. We can talk about things such as wormholes and things that exist on the outer reaches of space that may allude to that being possible. But in terms of the actual film and the book, it's a machine that's been created that someone gets into and transports back and forward in time. That's absolute fantasy.
But there are certain scientists that believe that the Large Hadron Collider in CERN is the first step towards creating a time machine.
Well, we're postulating, aren't we?
Absolutely, we're postulating, but that's the nature of science fiction, is postulation.
I'm not ready to accept that it's even a possibility, Richard, that the Hadron Collider could ever morph into some kind of time machine. I'm not ready to even entertain that.
10,000 years from now, there's no possibility that we could have constructed a machine that travels through time.
How can I possibly see 10,000 years into the future?
That's why it's called fiction.
Or fantasy.
Or fantasy.
Yeah. But you can see the point I'm trying to make.
I can see your perspective.
Right, yes.
I can't in any way agree with it.
Well, I'm not asking you to.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, that was just one kind of angle I wanted to bring to that.
It was interesting. I really enjoyed that. That was
so did I.
Interesting discussion.
I thought it would kind of apply the synapses somewhat in your brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to use you in a kind of encyclopedic vein, if I may, because you're always ready to educate whether people want to listen to you or not. And I'd like to find out your finest, your opinion on the finest exponents of science fiction.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was hoping that you were going to tell me all about science fiction yourself.
No, but
I was pretty eager to be educated by your wisdom on the subject.
I haven't got any wisdom to offer on this subject, Richard. I don't know.
I love science fiction, Nathaniel.
Yes.
I love horror.
Yes.
And when those two things come together, for me, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've got any specific questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Yeah. Who's your favourite science fiction author?
I don't really read science fiction.
You don't read it?
No. My sci-fi love is visual.
Oh, okay.
Because I like the I just like the visual aspect of seeing what's happening. Be it a wormhole or a craft going to warp drive, whatever it is. I just love the visual of it.
Okay.
I don't really read science fiction. I'm not saying I've never read a science fiction novel.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not something that I seek out.
Right, okay. That's absolutely fair. That's fair enough. So, 3 favourite science fiction movies?
3 favourite science fiction movies?
Yeah.
Oh. Aliens.
Right.
Silent Running.
I've seen that.
The Fly.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And you'll note 2 of those kind of blur the boundaries between sci-fi and horror.
I wouldn't have a clue about Silent Running because I've never even heard of it, let alone.
Silent Running is pure science fiction.
Right.
But obviously Aliens and The Fly, they're sci-fi and horror intermingled.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Which is why I love them.
Yeah.
Science fiction, I mean, as a visual art form, it's been going now for the best part of 90 years.
Yeah.
The earliest examples are things like Fritz Lang's Metropolis. That's really famous. If you don't know what that is, just by the name of it, if you saw, a footage of it, you would recognise it.
Right.
It's one of those things that's just in the zeitgeist.
Okay, yeah.
Then you got things like The Invisible Man, Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
That's 30s and 40s kind of material.
Yeah.
Bit naive, bit clumsy.
Yeah.
Entertaining in a kind of way, but I don't particularly enjoy watching them.
Right.
The 50s science fiction tended more towards the paranoid.
Yeah.
And you had cult classics like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
The Thing from Another World. And from the UK, Quatermass.
Yeah, great.
And that's massively important in science fiction.
Yeah.
Really, really influential, both on sci-fi here in the UK and in the States.
Yeah.
The 60s gave the world the 2 longest running sci-fi shows, really, which was Star Trek. Even though Star Trek's in various incarnations, it was still going from the 60s right up until the noughties.
Yeah.
And also Doctor Who, of course. 49 years. It's coming up to the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, would you believe?
Astonishing, isn't it, really?
That is astonishing.
Yeah.
And of course, it went off the screens for 10 years, so there was like a 10-year hiatus.
Yeah.
But still, 50 years and still going strong.
Yeah.
The 70s was more cerebral, with movies such as Silent Running, which I've already mentioned. You've mentioned as well, because I've bored you about that in the past.
Yeah.
Soylent Green and Logan's Run. Most people remember Logan's Run. Any recollection there for you?
Yeah, he sung in the Eurovision Song Contest, didn't he?
That's correct. Let's move on. 80s gave us the action side of sci-fi, which was the Terminator, Aliens, Total Recall, RoboCop, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've gone no further really in my listing, because after that, I mean, apart from The Matrix, it hasn't really fared well cinema-wise, in my opinion.
Has it been done to death, do you think?
See, the thing is, and I think the longevity of things like Who and Star Trek display this. It can't be done to death because it's just a blank canvas. You can do what you want.
But by very virtue of the fact that those things exist and have existed for such a long time, Richard, certainly points to the fact there's an awful lot of material that's been used up. There's a lot of imagination there that's been exploited. And I appreciate what you're saying about the blank canvas and infinite, I guess. Technically, but really, I mean, how far can people actually take it? Can they really keep coming up with new concepts all the time? I'm not sure.
I mean, the thing is, you don't need to necessarily come up with brand new ideas, do you?
You need to rehash them in an inventive way.
I think absolutely. I mean, I would argue that pretty much every story that can be told has already been told.
Right.
So if you're of a creative mind, the skill nowadays isn't in coming up with something brand new.
Yeah.
It's in blending previous ideas together in an original way.
Yeah.
That's the tough part, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
A friend of mine, he's a writer. He's not published yet.
Yeah.
But his work seems of a decent standard.
Right.
But he says to me, he has not had one. He's never in his life had a single original idea.
Right.
It's just putting his style.
Yeah.
On ideas that have gone before, and then blending elements together in a way that are unexpected.
I suppose that's true, Richard. I suppose you're absolutely right when you think about it. Yeah. It's just so easy to see in terms of people having brand new, innovative ideas when really they're just, like you say, putting their own spin on it. I suppose. Yeah, good point that you're making there.
I think the last film that really did something brand new, at least as far as the mainstream media was concerned, was The Matrix.
Yeah.
But Doctor Who beat it by about 15 years.
Right.
Because even that concept, which seemed radically new to people, Doctor Who had covered in a story called The Deadly Assassin 15 years earlier.
Yeah. And
they even called it, the thing that they went into was even called The Matrix.
Oh, wow, about that.
So, presumably the guys that made the film had seen that show.
There's got to be some sort of, it's not a coincidence, is it, surely?
There's a link there, isn't there?
There's a link, yeah.
I used to, a few years ago, and this will reveal the geek in me, which I'm unashamed of.
Yeah.
I was on a forum, a movie forum, and I used to play a game with the other members where we scored each other.
Yeah.
And the idea was they would name a movie, and I would tell them when Doctor Who did it first. If I was right, I got 100 points. If they were right, I lost 10 points for every year that the film beat Doctor Who by.
Right. And who ruled the roost on that?
Well, I did. I'm afraid I did.
Right.
And I'm not saying this for boastful reasons.
Yeah.
It's just yet more evidence that, all the ideas have been done previously, and now it's just about rearranging the pieces.
Yeah, my point was, who could prove that you were wrong?
Well, I mean, I had to justify it by explaining the plot of the Doctor Who story.
Right.
And then I'll send them to links such as Wikipedia or the BBC Doctor Who site.
Okay, yeah.
That kind of also explain what the plot was.
Yeah.
Just to prove the point.
Right.
I didn't lie, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
I told the truth.
Yeah.
But it was very hard for. There were a few examples that I couldn't think of a Doctor Who reference for.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you think Star Trek? There've been something like 600 episodes of. Doctor Who's about the same. That's 1,200 ideas.
Yeah.
As you say, hard to find something new.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for my own part, science fiction it creates a paradox in my head because given my personality traits and the things I was interested in when I was a young whelp, it's something it's a genre that should really attract me, but yet it doesn't, and it's interesting. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, science fiction is something of a turn-off for me. And it's something I'm able to justify, really, because the people use their imagination. They're coming up with wacky and freaky concepts. And generally, given the level of expertise in movie making and book writing these days, they're portrayed very well. But it just leaves me all a bit cold.
And yet you thoroughly enjoyed The Quiet Earth.
I did, because there's a very humanistic element to that.
Absolutely.
I guess once it reaches a certain level of wackiness, for want of a better term, it tends to lose me. But I don't want to criticise it, because obviously the very notion that there's a human being on this planet that's come up with that concept, I find fantastic. But it just doesn't interest me.
You see, good science fiction is about ideas.
Yeah.
Silent Running, it's a recurring theme. It's all about loneliness, isolation, and fear of death.
Right.
It's similar to The Quiet Earth, really, in terms of subject matter at its heart.
Yeah.
Bad science fiction is about special effects and robots just punching each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
But blending the two together is possible.
Yeah.
It can be done, and really effectively.
Yeah, I don't deny it. But maybe it's a genre I should give more of an opportunity. It certainly deserves it. What about TV shows, Richard? So the likes of Battlestar Galactica and I don't know what else is there. Shows of that ilk.
What do you want to know?
Are they science fiction?
Battlestar Galactica, certainly, of course, in both incarnations.
Yeah.
The 70s one, which is pretty clumsy and naive, I don't really like.
Yeah.
And the reinvention in the last 10 years or so, absolutely science fiction with a real mythical, spiritual theme as well. I think you would really enjoy Battlestar Galactica, the new version, because it's all about spirituality.
Right. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's the kind of points I need, because it's just such a huge genre as well that there's so much within it.
Yeah.
That I don't want to have to plough through oceans and oceans of shit just to find a few gems. So.
No, I mean Star Trek. You're never going to like that.
Yeah.
I would suspect.
Yeah.
Whichever format it's in, because even that's quite varied. But I don't think you like any of them.
Yeah.
Because they're a bit clinical.
Right.
A bit too much about the science and a bit less about the fiction.
Yeah.
Whereas Battlestar Galactica, I think you might enjoy almost the Buddhist aspect to some of the religious.
Oh, there you go.
Themes that are explored.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely tempting me.
It's fantastic. It's certainly in my top 5 sci-fi shows of all time.
Right.
It's dangerous, because I can talk ad infinitum about science fiction. So what I want is you to guide me and just ask me questions.
Yeah.
Because I don't just want to waffle.
Well, you've been managing pretty well.
Thank you.
But now you've answered some questions, Richard. That I wanted this to be other than something hopefully interesting for the listeners to listen to. I was hoping to actually get some knowledge from as well.
Yes.
And you have given me a couple of pointers, so thank you for your wealth of knowledge, as always.
Oh, good.
Oh, what I think about it was, I received your email about the words I should learn before I go to India. But I haven't taken it into memory yet. So hopefully by the time that we do our next podcast, I'll be able to, broadcast my new knowledge.
I think our listeners would really enjoy hearing you, perhaps delivering one of the opening sequences to a section in whichever language it is that you're learning.
I was hoping for something a little bit more modest than that, Richard, to be honest. I was hoping to just come on air and just say good morning. Or
no, I think try and aim high.
Okay, aim high.
Try and aim high.
Yeah.
So, your mission for next month.
Yeah.
Let's say now, without question, let's make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Next month, you're going to introduce the movie news section.
In Gujarati.
Because that doesn't really change, does it? That introduction is just, this is the part of the show where we talk about movie news and Hollywood development. That doesn't really change.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so what I want you to do for next month is learn that in Gujarati.
Yeah.
If you could, and just say it aloud for us.
It might be entertaining.
I'd like that.
Who would like that?
I would.
You would. Well, if it's you, which is going to be worthwhile.
I'd like it.
All right, so I'll give it a bash. Are we done?
I've run out of steam, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think the listeners are quite pleased.
Is that the end of the show?
That's the end of the show, I think, Richard. I think it's reached a natural conclusion.
It's tough to end on this kind of downbeat.
No, why not?
Emotion, though, isn't it?
That's life, Richard, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, it is.
You don't always watch movies with a happy ending, so our podcast has ended on a damn squid. Fuck them.
We're miserable.
Yeah.
We're miserable human beings. If you're not happy, fuck off! Good night.
Thanks for listening. Good night.